Welcome back to Left, Labor Education for Today. On today, the eve of Labor Day, we bring you the top 3 stories from the world of work this week. And less than 2 weeks out from the expiration of the UAW contract with the big 3 Detroit auto manufacturers, so we'll start this week by sharing some updates on contract negotiations. On Thursday, UAW President Shawn Fain announced the filing of unfair labor practice charges against General Motors and Stellantis, alleging that both parties have failed to bargain in good faith throughout these contract negotiations.
GM and Stellantis' willful refusal to bargain in good faith is not only insulting and counterproductive, it's also illegal. That's why today our union filed unfair labor practice charges, or ULPs, against both GM and Stellantis with the National Labor Relations Board.
In response, both General Motors and Stellantis released public-facing statements supporting their good faith efforts as part of the bargaining process so far. This is a claim with no basis in fact, and we are disappointed to learn that Mr. Fain is more focused on filing frivolous legal charges than on actual bargaining. We will vigorously defend this charge when the time comes, but right now we are more focused on continuing to bargain in good faith for a new agreement. We will not allow Mr. Fain's tactics to distract us from that important work to secure the future for our employees. And then these sentiments were echoed by General Motors Vice President Gerald Johnson, who said that GM is surprised by and strongly refutes the NLRB charge filed by the international UAW. We believe it has no merit and it is an insult to the bargaining committees. We have been hyper-focused on negotiating directly and in good faith with the UAW and are making progress. The pace of negotiations is based on how quickly both parties resolve nearly 1,000 UAW demands, including more than 90 presented this week. Our goal remains the same: to achieve an agreement without a disruption that rewards our team members and protects the future of the entire GM team. Meanwhile, Ford was not subject to these same unfair labor practice charges by the UAW. As you may recall, Ford had submitted a counterproposal to the UAW a few weeks ago. However, that counterproposal ended up in the trash, and so President Fain did not have great things to say about Ford either.
Ford's wage proposals not only fail to meet our needs, it insults our very worth.
And like their peers, Ford also released a statement sticking up for their efforts through negotiations so far. This would be an important deal for our workers, and it would allow for the continuation of Ford's unique position as the most American automaker, and give us the flexibility we need within our manufacturing footprint to respond to customer demand as the industry transforms. This offer would allow Ford to compete, invest in new products, grow, and share that future success with our employees through profit sharing. But Fain expressed particularly passionate frustration during this week's live stream, not only directed at Ford, but at the entire U.S. economy more broadly.
The labor movement once fought for a vision of work life in which everyone had 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for recreation. Sadly, it feels like we've gone so far backwards that we have to fight just to have the 40-hour work week back. Why is that? So another asshole can make enough money to shoot himself to the moon? I know this update's infuriating, and believe me when I say I'm fed up. And one thing I want to tell you is this trash can is overflowing with the bullshit that the big 3 continue to peddle. UAW family, I'm here to tell you, we're 14 days away, and at this point 13 days away, and the race to the bottom ends on September 14th. And I know you're ready in this fight. We're all in this together, and we're going to fight like hell to get our equitable share of justice for workers.
In this context, Fain and the UAW are sticking passionately to their bargaining objectives and are ready to initiate a strike if necessary.
I want to be very clear on this point. We will not accept nothing less than consistent living wages that will grow with the economy. If Ford thinks we will accept a single-digit pay increase and no cost of living allowance, then I hope these shareholders know how to work on an assembly line, because those are going to be the only people left to build cars come September 15th.
And in our second story of the week, Flight attendants from American Airlines have voted to authorize a strike as their negotiations continue to falter. According to the Association of Professional Flight Attendants at American Airlines have not received a wage increase since 2019. And with their patience wearing thin, the union announced on Wednesday that 99% of voting members voted in favor of a strike authorization if the union is not able to secure their contract negotiations objectives.
This is the deal. We are not so much interested in nickel and diming the company. All we're asking for is fair wages.
You may recall that we shared an update about the initiation of this strike authorization vote by American Airlines flight attendants a few weeks ago, and at that time, the pilots at American Airlines had achieved a tentative agreement on their contract negotiation, which resulted in over 40% average wage increases over the life of the next 4-year contract. However, those negotiations did not extend to the flight attendants that have had their own challenging bargaining processes. The Association of Professional Flight Attendants represents over 26,000 American Airlines flight attendants across the country, many of whom participated in demonstrations at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, demanding their fair share at the company's primary airport hub under the threat of a potential work stoppage. As a reminder, worker units like the flight attendants from American Airlines are covered by what's called the Railway Labor Act, which means that they must navigate several steps of government approval before securing an authorization to participate in a work stoppage. Pilots over at Southwest Airlines, for example, had requested a release from mediation in their negotiations at the end of June. However, since that time, the National Mediation Board denied this request. And so for flight attendants over at American Airlines, they haven't quite gotten to the point where they've requested a release from mediation in their negotiations. However, this has not stopped them from increasing calls for additional strike activity or additional organizing activity, practice picketing, as well as increased calls for solidarity, not only among American Airlines employees, but among employees across the entire industry and across the entire economy of organized labor in the United States. And in our third story of the week, we have yet another significant contract negotiation, as well as an accompanying strike authorization among employees of Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente is a healthcare and health insurance company in the United States employing about 200,000 workers, about 40% of whom are represented by the Coalition of Kaiser Permanente Unions. And this coalition of unions has been in negotiations with the company since about April of this year. And at the time, the company sent this communication to all employees, expressing in part that the pandemic and the post-pandemic time has been particularly challenging, especially for healthcare workers, but also for the company, which apparently lost $1.3 billion in operating margin in 2022. They emphasize the need to work together in order to accomplish mutually beneficial collective bargaining. Our long, proud, and successful history of working with labor unions proves that we are better together. We come to these negotiations with an open mind, and we ask that you and all our partner unions do so too. Let's take advantage of the power of our labor management partnership and show the world, again, that management and labor working together is the strongest way to achieve a fair and lasting agreement and advance Kaiser Permanente's mission. Unfortunately, just over 4 months later, the Coalition of Kaiser Permanente Unions has launched a strike authorization initiative, with some cohorts voting in favor of strike authorization this week, including over 3,000 workers from the Denver metro area. And with the September 30th contract expiration date looming, workers are continuing to express their frustration over pay, working conditions, and understaffing. The company, however, has fired back, referring to the company as an employer of choice and a best place to work, while arguing that this will continue to be the bedrock of their compensation and benefits strategy in the current negotiations. Union leaders have said that if a strike moves forward, it would be the largest healthcare worker strike in the nation's history. And that'll do it for the weekly recap. Those are our 3 biggest stories from the world of work this week. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you learned something, and I hope you check back in next week for the 12th edition of the weekly recap. Thanks for watching, happy Labor Day, and take care.